Next, we're going to go to Martha Bryson, who's also a housing activist. Welcome, Martha.
Hi there.
How are you today?
I'm doing okay.
So, tell us about your situation.
I am a 64-year-old widow on Social Security. I'm disabled. I live in a wheelchair. I lost my housing 2 years ago when Metco Property Management Company gave us a move-out notice. We had never missed a month in rent, never been late. They lied to us and told I had roommates. It was a big 4-bedroom house. My daughter, myself, and 2 roommates lived there, and they told us that the owner wanted the house back. The next morning, 3 guys were in the front yard looking at their phone, pointing at the house. We asked what they were doing, and they said that the house went up on Zillow for rent that morning for $200 more a month than what the $1,250 we were paying. We turned the house back over to them on August 6, 2017. That house stood vacant until February 2018. My roommates found housing. My daughter found housing. I could not find housing, and I got on the wait list for senior and disabled housing with the Housing Authority and with St. Vincent de Paul, which was a nightmare process just trying to do that, which would take a whole show to let the public know what it's like. Now, keep in mind, I've been a housing activist for 30 years. I was interviewed by the LA Times back in 1989, organizing homeless people in Long Beach, California. I was in Washington, D.C. on October 7th, 1989, addressing the homeless issue. And so if anyone could have prevented their homelessness, it would have been me. Not only did I get on a wait list that I qualified for, I also tried to find housing in the regular rental market. Fair housing violations abound. They would take one look at me and tell me that I would have to have 3 times the rent in monthly income. A 1-bedroom apartment in these crappy apartments across the street from Metco Property Management Company in Springfield, where I lived, in 2017, that apartment, a 1-bedroom apartment, cost $675, and you had to have 3 times the rent in income, and my income is $19.55 a month in widow's benefits and disability. It's significantly more than the $771 that someone who's been disabled lifelong and never paid into the system, that's the most they can get in the state of Oregon. Today, that same apartment at the Northwood Apartments is $875 for a 1-bedroom. So the kinds of things that are barriers for me to find housing, and I have given up hope of becoming housed in Lane County, even though I have stable, verifiable income. I've given up hope because I can't get property management companies, and we're talking all of them, not just Metco, we're talking all of them. I can't get them to even tell me if vacancies are upstairs or downstairs, even after I tell them I'm in a wheelchair. And when they limit the number of vacancies you can apply for with their property management company to 3, if they won't tell me if they're upstairs or downstairs, and I've applied for 3 locations, then I'm out of the running. A year ago, in May of 2018, Emerald's Property Management Company, I called them and I was desperate, and I said, I'm sleeping on a army cot, and I'm disabled, and it's crippling me. It's taking away the mobility that I have to be sleeping in someone's living room on an army cot, and I need housing. And they said, lady, right now I have 140 people in the same boat you're in. And I was fourth for my first vacancy that I chose on my list of 3. I was fourth in line for 5 weeks. So I said, where am I on the other 2 properties that I applied for? They said, we don't even look at your application until your number rises to 1 of 4. So all the people who applied over the past year for those vacancies, if they were still vacant, all got put ahead of me because it wasn't my first choice. That's how corrupt the system is with property management, blocking people from being able to get housing, to access housing. So it's a nightmare to try to rent to the regular rental market. There's so many applicants per vacancy in Lane County that I don't have any hope of ever getting into the regular rental market here. And I don't have any hope of getting housed in subsidized housing in Lane County because of a number of barriers that I've run across. Right now, I'm fourth in line with the Housing Authority at Village Oaks in West Eugene. They have no idea when my number will come up because all the people that they illegally kicked off of that wait list are put ahead of me when they add them back in when they appeal being kicked off of a wait list for a public housing authority. The other entity is St. Vincent de Paul, and they're a major contractor. They own 1,300 rental units here in this area of Lane County. They have 123 different wait lists. I called them 3 weeks ago and said, where am I on the Astor apartment wait list that I applied for in 2017? Because I see you have an ad that you've opened the wait list. It's 54 units at the Astor Apartments in Springfield. They said, we can't tell you where you are on the wait list. Fair housing laws prevent us from telling you because we would then have to tell everyone where they are on the wait list, and we don't have the staff to do it. So then I said, if I come into your office and make an appointment with you, and I'm talking to the housing wait list coordinator, her name is Kim. I said, if I come in, of your 123 wait lists, will you give me a list of just the senior and disabled housing that you manage or own so that I can watch for those wait lists to open up so I can make sure that I can get on other wait lists, not just Astor, that I am income eligible for? They said, no, we don't give out those lists. So I can't strategically place myself in a position where I know when housing wait lists open that are strictly for seniors and disabled people that are run by St. Vincent de Paul. So you see, it is a very hopeless kind of situation. I applied for housing in Roseburg.
It's really a
where
good issue.
From 2013 to
have
2016,
some cheese?
I interviewed and documented the stories of homeless people living on the streets in Douglas County.
I am
And
horribly
I looked into
unphotogenic.
an apartment in a really crappy,
That's fine.
rundown apartment complex on Northeast Stevens that was a 1-bedroom for $600 a month that was vacant
What?
last month. I
moved
called
this and
them,
I didn't see it was
and
open.
it's $600 a
Spills.
month. You have to have $700 deposit, and you have to have a credit score of 600
I'm
to
sorry.
apply to be
I should have
eligible.
put it. Just leave it on
for
the table.
consideration.
I should have put it in a container.
So it's not just Lane County, it's everywhere. And my situation right now, I live in a 30-year-old RV that my daughter spent her savings to keep me from being homeless. She lives in a foot by 20 foot tiny home, and I can't fit in there, much less my wheelchair. So she bought me this RV, and it has no
just
heat,
leave it out.
no hot water heater, and now it has no running water. The water broke.
I have
So I
several
very
different
much
kinds.
feel like not only do I have to lock up my wheelchair in a downtown Springfield mobile home park that is rife with drug dealers and I don't feel safe. It's the only place that I can find to put this RV, and I pay $380 for space rent every month, and I pay $109 for my meager household possessions that I didn't give away or sell that are in storage. So right off the bat, you can do the math of what my housing costs living in inadequate, substandard, temporary housing costs me. But then I have to struggle to get up 3 stairs to get into the RV. My daughters run a garden hose in the kitchen sink so that I can wash my hands and wash my dishes. And every day, the struggle is so hard. Yesterday, I went to 4th and Monroe in Eugene that Zondi spoke about. I passed through in my wheelchair. I wheel everywhere and go on the bus. I passed through this big, huge, giant park, acres and acres and acres under the freeway. Lots of beautiful green grass. And I crossed the street and I went 1 block and I found that block of 4th and Monroe. And there were signs that I posted on my Facebook page. I took a picture, and it says that at 12 noon on the 24th that this area is slated to be cleaned up. And so all tents and possessions of homeless people will be confiscated and held for 30 days. So I asked the people there, your camp is clean. You have a place for recyclables. You have a place for your trash. I said, may I take pictures so I can document? Because the city could come in here and bring trash bags and gloves, and the homeless people here would help clean up this area where some campers just left garbage. But all the tents that are there in that block right now, where the neighborhood association is now this morning going and protesting and telling them, move on, we don't want you here. I interviewed those people yesterday. I took pictures of their camps, and it was heartbreaking to see these people knowing that I said, where will you go? And they said, well, we're hoping that we can go a block or 2 away, and after they clean it up, we can come back and pitch our tent. I said, how long have you been homeless? There was a disabled senior woman who has been homeless 3 years on the streets of Eugene. There was a young man who spoke broken English, and he cried and said, I'm so ashamed to be living on the street. I paint when I can get day labor work, but I don't make enough money to be able to afford the regular rental market. And I didn't have the heart to point out to him that even if he made more money, there is no affordable income-based housing to be had. The city of Eugene, by their own numbers, have 36,000 housing units, a deficit for affordable housing that people who make minimum wage can afford. And yet, they're doing nothing. I agree with Zondi. I went when they were considering the construction excise tax that the state law, the new state law, allows municipalities to levy a construction excise tax up to 1%. The city of Eugene voted 0.33% not to take effect until 2021, I believe. I testified and I said, you have an ethical and moral obligation to get as much funding, because the state law says that funding from that construction excise tax must go to affordable housing, to develop affordable housing. I told the city council they had a moral obligation to poor people. And I told them that I am homeless. I'm not on the street, but I am inadequately housed to the point it's a safety issue for me. And I will tell you, I am not alone. For 6 months, the first 6 months I owned this trailer, in June 13th of last year, I was in a mobile home park on North 99 in North Eugene. And within 2 blocks of that slum RV, there were 5 people in wheelchairs sleeping on the sidewalk within a 2-block area. And this, keep in mind, where they would congregate is across the street from the, quote, service center, or the Lend Home Homeless Services Center run by St. Vincent de Paul. And I am so shocked that the public doesn't know what it's really like to try to find housing when you lose your housing through no fault of your own. You just lose your housing. If I can't get housed, I believe there is no hope that the people who are homeless on the streets of Lane County, for them to ever get housed with the current situation. I don't believe that they will ever get housed.
Martha, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think Zondi hit upon it that without the story being able to penetrate the media and anyone understanding what's going on, everyone is under this illusion that things are really not as bad as they really are.
Right.
So hopefully by telling your story today, we can get this out and do something. But again, the real challenge is finding the legislators with the moral courage and stamina to stand up and address these hard issues and do it in a realistic way instead of just telling lies.
Yes. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you. Good luck.